Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. Today we're going to talk about something very exciting, airplanes. Have you ever wondered how those enormous metal birds can fly through the air? In this video, we're going on an exploration journey together, and you'll learn all about airplanes.
Are you ready for takeoff? Fasten your seatbelts and let's go.
Part 1. Components of an airplane. Let's first take a look at the components of an airplane. An airplane has various parts that all work together to make it fly. Fuselage. The fuselage of the airplane is a long hollow tube to which all components, such as the wings, engines, and tail, are attached. The fuselage is the long part of the airplane where passengers and luggage are transported. It also contains the cockpit where the pilots sit. What material do you think the fuselage is made of? Usually the fuselage is made of aluminum. This material is as light as a feather, but don't be fooled because it is extremely sturdy. Okay, and now let's move on to the wings. These are the large, broad parts on the sides of the airplane. They ensure that the airplane can stay up and work together with the air. Just like birds have wings, airplanes also have wings. The inventors of airplanes took a good look at nature for this. Do you know who invented an airplane? Are you familiar with Leonardo da Vinci? This very famous man made a design for a device to fly with very early on. This drawing was made in 1480. That's a long time ago. And that's long before we actually started making vehicles to fly with. The first powered airplane was eventually invented by the Wright brothers in 1903. In that year, the Wright brothers made the very first man-powered flight ever. 3 years later, in 1906, their patent for the flying machine was approved. Fun fact, did you know that the Wright brothers, Orville and Wilbur Wright, were bicycle makers before they invented the airplane? They had a bicycle shop in Dayton, Ohio, where they repaired bicycles and even built their own bicycles. It's amazing to see how their background as bicycle makers contributed to one of the most revolutionary inventions in history.
Okay, kids, now we continue talking about how an airplane works.
Tail surfaces. At the back of the airplane are the tail surfaces, including the vertical stabilizer and the rudder. These help stabilize and steer the airplane.
Okay, kids, let's talk about the engines of an airplane.
Imagine the engine of an airplane as the heart of the airplane. It gives the airplane the power to fly, just like our heart gives us the power to run and play. The engine of an airplane works by burning fuel. This creates a lot of heat and gas, which is then pushed out of the back of the engine. This gas being blown out pushes the airplane forward, just like when you blow up a balloon and let it go. Fun fact, airplanes have a black box. Even though it's called a black box, it's actually bright orange in color. It's a device that stores data about the flight, such as altitude, speed, and communication, and can help investigate accidents if they occur. Part 2. The cockpit. Let's take a look inside the cockpit of an airplane. This is the special space where the pilots sit and control the airplane. Control yokes and pedals. In the cockpit, you'll find control yokes and pedals. The control yokes resemble large joysticks and are used to steer the airplane up, down, left, and right. The pedals at the pilot's feet help in turning the airplane. Instrument panel. The instrument panel is filled with various gauges, screens, and buttons. These allow pilots to read important information such as altitude, speed, direction, and fuel quantity. Communication equipment. Pilots also use communication equipment to talk to air traffic controllers on the ground and with other airplanes in the sky. They wear headphones so they can hear each other clearly. Windows. And let's not forget about the windows. Pilots can look out of these windows to see what's happening around them. You can probably imagine what a fantastic view they have, high in the sky. The number of pilots in the cockpit depends on the size of the airplane. There are different ranks for pilots. The most experienced pilot is called the captain. Always sitting next to the captain is a first officer, also called a co-pilot, and possibly, on longer flights, the second officer.
The second officer can accompany on intercontinental flights
in a large airplane. As a flight engineer, you're not allowed to take off and land because you're the least experienced pilot. You recognize a second officer, flight engineer,
a second officer by 2 stripes, a first officer was co-pilot by 3 stripes, and a captain by 4 stripes on their uniform.
Fun fact, people who work in aviation have their own language. Pilots use a special language called aviation language to communicate with each other and with air traffic controllers. They use codes and abbreviations to speak quickly and clearly with each other. Part 3. How an airplane flies. Now that we know the parts, let's take a look at how an airplane actually flies. If you had to describe in one word how an airplane flies, the answer is lift. That's why airplanes have wings, inspired by birds, of course. Lift. Airplanes can fly because of something called lift. The wings are designed to change the airflow around them, creating a difference in air pressure that pushes the airplane upward. Gravity. Opposite to lift is gravity, which tries to pull the airplane down. But thanks to the shape of the wings, the airplane can remain airborne. Thrust. To move forward, airplanes need power. This comes from the engines, which push the air behind the airplane and make it move forward. Control. To turn and gain or lose altitude, pilots use the tail surfaces and special control surfaces on the wings to maneuver the airplane. Fun fact, airplanes have special wings that make the air flow over them faster than underneath. This creates a force called lift, which pushes the airplane upward and makes it float. How high does an airplane actually fly? An average passenger airplane flies between 9 and 12 kilometers in altitude. How high an airplane can fly depends, among other things, on the type of airplane and its weight. And how fast does an airplane fly? An airplane flies on average between 850 and 950 kilometers per hour. Part 4. What is turbulence? Imagine you're in an airplane and it starts shaking a little. Maybe you've experienced that before. That's what we call turbulence. It's a bit like when you're in a boat and the waves make the boat sway a little. Turbulence occurs in the air when the wind and air currents disturb each other a bit. It can make the airplane shake a bit, but it's not actually dangerous. It's more like a bumpy road in the sky. Pilots and airplanes are designed to handle turbulence, so they're prepared for it. It's just like a car encountering some bumps in the road. It can be a bit annoying, but it's not dangerous. So if you're ever in an airplane and it starts shaking, don't be afraid. It's just the air being a bit messy, but pilots often experience this and will safely take you to your destination. Part 5. Who else works in an airplane beside the pilots? Flight attendants. These are men and women in uniform who work on an airplane and ensure flight safety. They also take very good care of the passengers and the pilots. They are the ears and eyes of the cockpit. Strong communication skills and being stress-resistant are important qualities flight attendants must have. They assist in distributing or selling food and drinks, answer questions, and ensure everyone is safe during the flight. They must act if someone becomes ill and with all other things that can happen aboard an airplane. High in the sky, you can't just call the fire department, doctor, or police. So flight attendants must always keep a cool head and be able to act in any situation. Maybe next time you're on an airplane, you can ask them a question. Most of them really enjoy that. Fun fact, airplanes have emergency exits with slides. If there's an emergency and the airplane needs to be evacuated quickly, passengers can use the emergency exits with slides to exit the airplane quickly and safely. Flight attendants have practiced this many times, so they know exactly what to do and can help everyone. Part 6. Who works on an airplane? Okay, now we know who works in an airplane, but who works on an airplane and what else is needed to make an airplane fly safely? Technicians and mechanics. These smart people work on the inside and outside of the airplane to ensure that everything works properly. They check the engines, repair any problems, and ensure that the airplane can fly safely. So these are also important people that we should highlight. Baggage handlers. These are the strong people who ensure that your luggage is safely loaded onto the airplane and unloaded when you arrive at your destination. And then there are, of course, the air traffic controllers. These so-called air traffic controllers communicate with the airplanes from the ground. These people work in towers at the airport and at other locations to ensure that airplanes can take off, land, and fly in the sky safely without colliding with each other. They give instructions to the pilots about when to take off, land, and which route to follow. They're also very important people that we must not forget. Conclusion, and that's how an airplane works. It's truly amazing what people can build, isn't it? And by the way, did you know that flying is considered one of the safest forms of transportation in the world? Airplanes are very advanced and are subject to strict safety standards and checks. Moreover, pilots undergo extensive training and there are comprehensive emergency procedures. So if you're ever on an airplane, just enjoy it. You're in good hands. Did you enjoy this journey through the air?
Then subscribe to our channel and don't forget to like. See you next time. End of the video.